good morning, good evening. I don't know if it is about... Well, I am already taking a nap, yes. I'm already dreaming. And I said I have to lecture, and I was taking a nap. And those who are here will be asking questions. How about this? It's a crazy thing, talking about warships and what could we learn from warships regarding security issues. We have here, I've participated at very many conferences. I've said I'm too old to do this, and I'm back doing the same thing. And I'm the author of several drones. Last year I presented this drone here at the Rooted and also at DEF-CON. And this is myself. You know me. And I'm a system engineer, embedded system software research and development. We will need billions of research and development engineers. I took my own helicopter to come here because that's the way we're given tokens of recognition. And I think that those who wrote 50 Shades of Grey were based on myself, my history. Well, jokes are not what we want to say. Why to talk about warships if we're going to talk about cybersecurity? We started with a tweet. Those who are not following me, this is Tyson, Texas. 30 seconds to follow me, and then you can give me, as a follower, a recognition of the fact you like what I'm saying. So we started from a tweet, and I'm going to elaborate on this. We're going to dismantle the whole thing to analyze it in detail. What could we learn from warships and this paradigm of those very, very secure warships? And I'd like to clarify that there is no lack of talented people in cybersecurity. I also give conferences on STEM. Some fake news are unveiled, and so on and so forth. We analyze the viral information that's fake news, talking about there is a lack of talented experts. No, when we talk about warships, some people say that now we do not have any more. We have nowadays, rarely, we do not have this concept of sort of protected and something that's considered as a warship that is shielded. It is not exactly that. It's armored or shielded. And then I will start to say, well, 1, 2, 3, left, right, right, left. It's like dancing. Why do we have those? Why do we have those very funny names that we call the different names? You see, in the case of a boat, we say different words in maritime terminology. Well, to start with this, I'd like to say that I love trains, but all transportation means are lovable with the exception of cars and buses. You won't take pictures of a bus line or something. I love boats, and when we talk about boats, I'd like to talk about a film, and we'll start with Master and Commander, not Pirates from the Caribbean. No, then you won't learn many things, but in Master and Commander, you can learn many things. Perhaps the Sparrow thing is interesting, but this is the Hms Victory, which is the only liner that's still there, that's still working, and it's not been dismantled. And can you hear me? And it belongs to the British people. This is a boat. You remember Trafalgar, when they say they could render Spaniards humble, and this is Nelson's navy, and she was tremendously strong, and there were cannons and there were guns and they were just shooting. There were some tactics at that time, They loved that type of arrow type of organization. They crossed the lines of the enemy, but they were based on that. That was the strategy. It was having a very strong, she was very strong, the navy, the boat was very strong, and there were cannons at different levels, and really, this is not that the ships were, sinking. It was unusual to make them sink. They were destroying the whole thing, but the boats, they were unsinkable. They were staying there, floating, and they thought people could anticipate to this situation, saying, if I could protect my boat, then I would receive those impacts and I would be totally protected. There was the gloire, as they pronounce it, glory. The gloire was the first shielded, the first armored vessel. That was the same type of vessel, but it was protected by metal, and not so many cannons. With one line of armored or of guns, it was enough. It was this change of paradigm then. It is the old thing, the Hampton Roads battle, and it is something that looks very old in cybersecurity. We see the paradigm is changing here, and it is the first change of paradigm. All the boats at the time, all the vessels were made of wood, and during Hampton Roads battle in 1862 in the US, the thing is that there was a vessel that was a CSS Virginia from the Confederate Army that was armored. They put some plates, and you cannot see anything precisely because it was the boat, the vessel, without all the different masts, all the different things, and we see that the vessel was just made of cannons and just plated with the metal plates. And you see one of the boats, the Virginia. The Virginia was destroyed. And then the USS Monitor, like the chocolate box type of vessel. It is like drawing a joke. It was a normal vessel, but there was like this little part that was just going around in circles. It was able to spin, was able to rotate. That was a very modern concept. It was like an Iron Man of the sort of the time. They took a normal vessel, they removed all the masts, and they put just a plate on top of this, not below, because they were on surface. You didn't need to armor or to protect or plate with metal what was below. It looks like a submarine, but you see people here, and they were on top of that, and they had two big cannons, and then with this you could sink a very important vessel. She was one of the most important vessels, and one of the things I'd like to mention regarding cybersecurity is that this is a low profile vessel. If you want to like to show that this is tiny thing, it's difficult to get it to, it's impossible. They almost didn't show. There was the deployment of those enormous vessels, and this one looked like a ridiculous thing, showing a little profile. It's almost making us laugh, but we stop laughing when they start shooting. And here we have the Numancia. Numancia vessel was the first armored boat that went around the world, and then, as we see, we destroyed it. As we are typically Spanish, we destroyed our history, which is normally here seen in Spain. I love the boat because they said, "Oh, you're going to dismantle me, So they were about to be dismantled in Bilbao after I don't know how many years of service, after decades, and people were saying, no, 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 impossible, we should rescue, we should preserve the vessels, but we're not British, as you know. If we were British, we would have another token, another relic, but it was, well, sunk. And we see here in Cuba, Santiago de Cuba, there is this battle, the battle in 1898. This battle you all have seen. We always say Cuba, we always say we lost everything in Cuba, and so on and so forth. The battle was like a very easy thing. They told Cervera, you see, American people, they are just pestering us. Let's do something with those little vessels, small ships. And that was politically decided. It was for political reasons. And they got, as we see, there was one casualty on the side of the United States, and our troops were destroyed. So having a good hardware is important. It's very important regarding cyber security, and also being safe, physically speaking, staying alive. But they didn't decide to have the best possible technique, but it's difficult to do it now, to analyze what happened a century ago. And imagine you are stepping into Cervera's shoes, and well, we could say from our place the mistakes they made a century ago. And to talk about this anecdote, I'd like to tell you something. I'd like to say that these people, Cervera said, I cannot win, so as I'm not going to win, what I can do is I will have a different attitude. I would say then, I'm going to have the low rate of casualties possible. So what he did, he was extremely precautious, As we say, well, you have to be cautious, but it is as dangerous as a very daring person. So he went to Santiago de Cuba, this bay, to be on the safe side. But you have to leave the place someday. You cannot leave the bay. And he had to leave the bay, but they were waiting for him, and they destroyed him and his vessels. There was only one ship, Colon was the name, and was about to escape, but couldn't because there was no fuel. Imagine, the captain said, everything is fine. Captain, the truth, you won't believe us, but we have no fuel left, no coal left to continue with our engines. And then they were caught, and they said, why is it so that this one is not even firing? No firing because there were no cannons, no nothing. It was a most modern vessel, but no guns, no nothing. And it was planning according to the way we plan things here. And so, what is it to do with cybersecurity? Everything. You can ask me, but I think that my goal here, on top of remembering history and talk about what I love, because I love vessels and I don't know how to talk about something I love. So let's wait. The day we'll have to talk about trains and railroad systems, you'll be amazed. But I would like you to think about it. I'd like you to give a thought and to try to establish connections about cybersecurity and what was lost in Cuba. When I was preparing this slide, I said, let's look at their faces when I will present this thing. On the left-hand side, we have Cervera. On the right-hand side, we have Fernando. Sorry, I think his name was Fernando. Villamil. Villamil was the family name. On the left-hand side, Cervera was the leader, the commander-in-chief of the army. And at that time, I remember the Star Wars, and I think they had copied this from our battle in Santiago de Cuba. This guy said, I cannot win. What I want is, I want to have a lower number of casualties, as a fewer number of casualties. So what was it? He was an intelligent guy. And so another thing regarding cybersecurity, when you know you cannot win, so you have to preserve your emails, you have to save your emails. What happened in his case? Yes, Telvera, you go there, go there, and that's it. The end of it. The guy said, that's something I cannot get rid of because I am fighting for Spain. He said, we're going to be humiliated. I decided to send several letters, and he got the letters back from Spain, and they say, yes, we know you're going to fail, you're going to be defeated, but he said, I want to keep the letters. When the vessels were destroyed, he said, no surprise. You know what happened? Then this guy was saying, what have you done with the fantastic fleet, with the fantastic vessels you had? And he said, look, I have been telling you, I have been saying, I have been mentioning this. If it were not due to it, he would have been guilty of everything. And then there is my favorite thing, is Villamil's approach. Villamil created the destroyer, and he died there inside one of his destroyers. Why? Because I like him. He had the idea that let's create a mess, big mess, because I have small vessels, but they're very speedy. And let's take the profit of how quick we are able to attack other forces that are at a higher level. But perhaps I can get in, and I can just sort, and I can just get out of the trap, catch-22. And they said, no, don't do funny things. Just, no, you go straight, don't do funny things. Don't do funny things here. We have a desperate situation. But I like his mentality, because it was, let's play the role as hackers. Let's go on the side. I know this is real crap. We're going to fail, but let's see if we can turn the situation over. And as he had the destroyers, he was in command of the destroyers. When we talk about destroyers, it is rather confusing, the term, because in Star Wars, they use the Imperial destroyer. They have a very heavy vessel, and this is not the reality. A destroyer is a very light vessel and very fast. They can just move around very fast, and that creates confusion. And Lucas was not informed about really how destroyers were. The guy said, well, and the guy died because under the fire of Americans, and well, he was killed and got killed, and he had this sort of we see this film, you remember, the Crystal Jungle. Well, I don't know, but those are equivalent terms. And to set the situation, those were the type of vessels. They looked like a catalog of firearms and weapons, and we see here they had very many cannons that were not compatible among themselves. They were not integrated. There were like different sorts of cannons, and one that had a very, very long, or could reach long distances. Another one, and a third one with a variety. They had ammunition, they had different sorts of things, but no standardization. And so the battles were played by ears. When they were presented this, you use the one that reaches the farther away, and you don't use the other ones. And so if you're only using the big cannon, the other ones are just like for beauty, for cosmetic reasons there. So you cannot improve your cyber attack till you counteract. And the concept of war could be fantastic, or the concept about conflicts could be great, but if you don't go into the battlefield, the real world of a battlefield, you don't know the way your weapons will counteract others and what this will counteract. So they say, you put all sorts of weapons, all sorts of things, just in case. And then the British came, and they said, as British people, we are going to convey democracy everywhere, and we're going to seed democracy everywhere. But as we enter into the 20th century, they were not as powerful, so they wanted here only long distance combat, and we had this dreadnought. The dreadnought, if you know about it, I know you're laughing about HMS Dreadnought, 1906. You know about it. This vessel was a change of paradigm. Again, changing paradigm, cling, cling, changing paradigm, and changing the concept of the naval army approaches. We will use the best possible cannons, and we forget about the other ones, the most powerful weapons. We will put some small things around just in case we had a small boat, but the big weapons were the most important things. That's why they focus on long-reach weapons. So you can see them, you can see the size is important. And here we see, there was a catalog, but here it's organized. We see those two big sort of towers, and that was a big change. This is a dreadnought.
So you see the big cannons over there, and then this is a scheme like a drawing of the armored part, because not all vessels were armored the same way. You cannot armor the entire ship with a maximum thickness. So you need to think about this as if it were a firewall. I cannot armor everything with 100% protection everywhere. At least in battleships, you cannot do this. You had a certain amount of tin or metal to be installed. The more you put metal, the heavier the ship, so the less navigable. So it's going to be slower and adaptability, and it's expensive, even if someone can say money is there. So this ship has 279, which is thickness of the armor, and like 30 centimeters of steel plates like that to stop the impact she received. Why do we have 279 here and nothing below? Because battles at the time, the probability of getting cannon bullets, was there on top. On the below the sea, nothing can happen. So below the floating line, nothing can happen. So this would have been good for Titanic split in the wall that will prevent water from passing through. So there was like a double split, but only on the lateral part. The Jutlandia battle, you can see documentaries. This battle was the biggest battle using dreadnoughts. So it was unbelievable. Germans against British, two countries that are really for living in peace. This battle of the Jutland battle
Esta slide es para parecer como pro, ¿no?
So this is going to disappear. Well, I don't know what you want me to explain. Red, Germany, blue, Britain. And that's it. So the British had more vessels. The British said, well, I am going to have more because they live on an isle and nothing else. So they need to have big ships. So the British and the Germans had different concepts of war. Because I have more wars, the English said, because we have more wars, we need to be stronger. But if I get an impact, who cares? Because we have more ships. So they used metals like that. And the Germans said, because we have a low number of ships, we will have another kind of approach. So each one has its own paradigm. This is one of the German ships. Beautiful, right? But she survived. The English troops received many bullets, a lot of casualties, but the tactical victory was for the Germans because they said, yeah, we have a bigger fleet, it's better built, your ships are paper ships, okay, you can wear metal, but the control of the sea was in the hands of British because they were not, I mean, they couldn't, the Germans, I'm sorry, because the British were not afraid. So the strategic part of the combat was won by the British, by the Britons. So no matter how good your hardware is, no matter how good your staff is, no matter how good your strategies are, then the enemy will outnumber you anyway, and you're going to fall. Then there's a matter of ego. We talk about hackers having like a big ego and be really wealthy, but this is a problem of calling a sinking boat the Invincible. Please don't call your ship invincible, because it was actually sunk. This is an LOA case also, because the Hungarians didn't have so many dreadnoughts, so they said, let's build the biggest one, have everything in this ship, a good one and very luxury one, so all one but with everything. Well, so they said, let's compete against the British, the Britons. SMS, but I'm not joking here. SMS sent its van, Saint Stephen in English. So they tried to troll the English, and the Italians, I'm sorry, said the speaker. The Italians detected them with small boats like those on the screen. They were like there and this little boats. It's incredible what they did. There are some little holes here on the stern of the ship. So, oh, the Saint Stephen is coming, and the little fast battle. Boom! There we go. So the Saint Stephen came at night, 2 torpedoes, boom, boom, and look at what the Italian did with them. Why was that? Because this happened because the Saint Stephen was a dreadnought. These ports had not been closed. Those in the bottom part, so the thing that is below the floating line. So the thing is that the entire ship became a problem. So why am I being too light with this? Well, because the other ones were competing against them, 2,000 people in the boat, but 1,995 saved themselves because they could swim. So knowing to swim was part of the talent at the time. So talent was very important in this case. There's a videotape, a movie made at that time. So please go to Wikipedia because you can see the video clip and the sailors waiting to be evacuated. So that's why I wanted to show you, because it was a tragedy, but of course they saved themselves. So we have been attacked by two little boats, and this is what happened. So these are the last armored vessels I wanted to talk about. So this was during World War II. The Battle of the Strait of Denmark for ships. So the Germans, the Nazi Germany. Okay, these are the British ships. HMS Hood, a huge ship. At the time, the Hood was a superstar. It was the mighty Hood. And then the Prince of Wales ship. And then on the other hand, we have the German vessels, all of them. And they had the Bismarck and the Prince of Eugene. These two ships went out hunting the American ships, transporting things to America, and they said, we're going to destroy them. But let's try to intercept these guys here and on these other boats. There's a film called Sink Bismarck, or The Bismarck. It has not been translated into Spanish, but you can watch the film anyways. So these two boats start fighting, and they said, let's intercept in the Strait of Denmark the German completely new vessel, a First World War British vessel that was good, very good actually. So this is how the Hood was armored. The green part was not armored. Well, it was armored in brackets. So the thickness of armor, the red there, the best. And this is how the Prince of Wales was armored. And they said the red part is the armored part, but this boat had torpedoes. So we're going to solve the problem with the torpedoes, but it was not true because the Prince of Wales was sunk by Japanese planes. So again, the battle starts, pim pam, pum, and the Hood split in two. Because the armor, and there's a lot of controversy, but people say, no, the Hood was brand new, but then the core was hit. Yeah, and the problem is that the core was hit. And out of the 1,000 people who saved their lives, well, 2 were able to really survive. And so they said, okay, our best ship was hit. So it was a psychological thing for them. So how can we sink one of the most modern dreadnought ever by using fabric planes? After the battle, the Bismarck wanted to withdraw to France, and they said it's not possible. So we only have these small fabric planes. Well, they didn't hit anything. The Bismarck didn't hit any plane. All the planes survived. Apparently, the Bismarck survived. Several torpedoes hit her, but one of the torpedoes, the last torpedo, hit the wheel, the main wheel. What happened? The wheel was like that. It was stuck. to one of the sides, and the ship started to go in circles. Yeah, we have incredible cannons, but you are turning in wheel, so you have a perfect target. There's no way out. And this is sink the Bismarck, because it was turning in circles, so they were able to hit it. So, not because you have the best hardware, you're going to win. Then the ship sent a radio signal, so they were supported. And then we have Pearl Harbor. We all know the movie. Very American, very sad. I like another film called Tora Tora Tora, which is a documentary made by Japanese and Americans, and the film describes better, actually, the end of dreadnought or armored vessels, because at the beginning of the movie, the Japanese say, let's bomb the Americans with their planes. So the Americans were like there, waiting. So planes get to Pearl Harbor, and the only ships that were there were American dreadnoughts or armored vessels. So the staff, the Japanese staff, say, well, what are we going to do with these planes? We are in submergible armored vessels? No, you can do that. Unsinkable? You cannot say invincible. You cannot say unsinkable. So we have the Yamato ship. Yamato is a poetic way to call Japan. So the Yamato was the best ever. As you can see, the drawing of Yamato, which is really armored, it's like a box, and the armored is oblique. So they even had air conditioning. That is true. For the officers, of course, very luxurious for them. For officers, the biggest cannons ever on a boat. They could launch like a car, 40 kilometers. That was great. As you can see, cannons everywhere. So the armor was like that, 41 centimeters metal and oblique, because bullets come this way. So the bullets never hit you at the front, because the deck is also armored. For far-reaching battles, bullets came from the top, not from the surface. So this is the armored part of the Yamato, and this is the most armored part in the world. And the green part is not armored. Yeah, everything is protected, but there are parts of the vessel that cannot be protected, because you cannot protect everything, otherwise it's going to be very heavy. So what happened? I really like the Japanese, because the Japanese said, no, wait, because we have the Yamato and we're not going to risk our brand new hardware. So this vessel didn't do anything. It was the command center. Yes, true. A very beautiful command center. Her cannons never faced other kind of vessels as big as her, because they didn't exist, basically. So she was useless, and a great number of resources of Japan were devoted to building her. So that is the last battle, the Battle of Okinawa, and she sailed on her own against all the Americans, and then the kamikazes, boom. So there were armored ships that had to receive one torpedo to sink. This boat got 12 torpedoes. It was epic and it was very sad. But in the log, in the American logs, one of the pages was, "We have sunk the Yamato." I wanted to compare things, and Yamato is considered the best dreadnought of the world, but she had failures or lacking, shortages, like shooting control. You can be a giant, but you don't see. So if your technical part is good, if your cannons can reach 40 kilometers, but you only see 10 kilometers from where you are, so there's no integration of systems there. So the American ships in this regard were more balanced, and the paradigm here is as follows. If maybe I can have a good armored, but the better thing would be not to receive any impact. This is the USS Missouri, where the peace accord with Japan was signed. So this is my reflection. The cybersecurity perimeter has simply vanished. Perimeter as a concept. I would like you to think about this as a concept. The perimeter didn't vanish, not even in cybersecurity, because in the Navy either. There are no more armored battleships, but new ships, if they hit an oil tanker from China, it's, "Oh, sorry, I hit you," because conflicts have changed. Of course, you're not going to be getting a missile like that. There are other methods. And the last evolution is the Peter the Great from the Russian, which is a kind of mixture. It's not dreadnought, but it's about carrying missiles, etc. It's not only a carrier, it's many things. So isn't cybersecurity the new Air Force? Maybe yes, maybe not. Because if we're saying that paradigm has changed, but if you don't invest, even if the Air Force is the future and you still invest in Navy or dreadnoughts, well, think about it. Same thing for cyber defense. As you can see, a foreign country invaded, Spain, cyber invaded. So they have only defensemen, so why are we here? If all you can do with the IT is defacement, so what are experts for? So what are we talking about? Why are we here? Let's go home to watch a Netflix show. So perimeter is still important. The perimeter is not everything. And the last phrase is for you to read. The importance of investment is determined by what you're ready to pay. So let me show you what I did with trains this time. I have 6 minutes, but I'm going to hack time anyway. I don't remember how to use the full screen here. Because this is Foxy, and I don't know how to use it. I mean, at least I don't remember. So I'm going to explain you a little bit. This little train I mounted, because I'm not talking about hacking or attacking all the time. I work with drones. I work with many things. So the newcomers are going to say, "But where did this guy come from?" So, but this is the thing I really like: hard work, hacking, and embedded software. So this is microtrain hacking project to create train maquettes, and this kind of systems have been in place for years. In the past, when my father was around, so you fed the train and the train worked. If you don't feed the train stopped running. In a digital system, the tracks have a power, plus or minus voltages, and this is decoded by the machine, which allows you to control several trains on the same track, using the track as a communication bus. This is the classic method. So you change speed by sending a peak voltage as signal. So this is analogic, where with two poles on the tracks, and then the sleepers get one on the other and put them together. I'm sure you didn't expect this. Let me explain you how the automatic thing that is in my parents' house to control the sample that I did. My father's a hacker. So my father is a hacker. And he created a system to automate the entire maquette by using a fan engine. So, how could this maquette be automated? A counter, a time counter. So, a fan engine with a wheel turning at a slow speed. There you are. This is a real piece of work. Because I don't as good as that. I use tape. So this is the fan engine. It's I'm speechless actually to describe the entire system my father created. So as you can see there, the lower part, there's a wheel, and the system goes around and touching the different negative and positive poles, closing it, open it. Here's the maquette. This is another part of the maquette. Look at the catenary, for electric trains that are currently being used. And my dad is here. Dad, please stand up. So please give my dad a big applause. You were not expecting this, right? So more things of the maquette. This is a roundabout, a little tunnel, a bridge. This is the protocol. This is what has been sent on the track. Each locomotive has an 8 bits identification system. So there is a switch, a hardware that you can use with the Wi-Fi, etc. But there's a problem. Here's the problem. To solve this is to hardware hack. So what do you have to do to hardware hack? You need to I have a router here, that same thing that I use for drones with Arduino. It's the first time I use Arduino. H-bridge for power. So with Arduino, I generate signal. I have a double M to the bridge, and I send commands to the train. by using that. So this is the Arduino, this is the router, the regulator. So I created a Wi-Fi system that communicate with signals with our Arduino, serial, and I can control the train on my website. So that was the test of the router, of the little train that you have outside is merchandise Wi-Fi, so you can use your password or get a password to control the train. So this is the H bridge. Current oscillates all the time. Power oscillates all the time from one side to the other, and when the direction changes, the information is sent. So this is the Chinese H bridge, and then a decoder to interpret signals. You can turn lights off, on, irrespective of the train functioning or not, running or not. So we have a rectification bridge to normalize power, to feed the electronic part, and then also to read the signal. And then this is what we get on our website. So you click on that website to regulate speed, change of direction, etc. So this is the end of my presentation. So thank you very much for your attention. Now, if you have questions,